What's the juiciest rumor at your school that turned out to be 100% true? Story number 1. We had a Spanish teacher who would keep giving random financial or business advice during classes. One day he tabbed over to his stock trading homepage and accidentally revealed that he was a millionaire. Rumors about his past started circulating. Around graduation, some students found old newspaper articles confirming that he was a former meth dealer who had spent time in jail. Was a seriously cool guy, actually. Story 2. The art teacher was sleeping with both the history teacher and the RE teacher. She was married to the chemistry teacher, who she previously had an affair while married to the woodwork teacher. I believe she married the RE teacher sometime after I left school. Edit. A few people have asked what RE is. Religious education, which state schools in the UK used to have to teach. Taught by an atheist, which was refreshing. This is better than a Mexican soap opera. Story 3. The male principal got caught f***ing the male history teacher in his office. Both were married. Edit. Principal. Sorry. Their husbands must have been furious. Story 4. Rumor had it that a teacher was having sex with some of his students that wanted higher grades. No one believed it to be true because he was married and just had his third baby. 100% true. And all the students were proud of it. He's still in jail 5 years later. Students were proud of it? I fucked a teacher for my B+. Story 5. When I was in middle school, the big joke rumor was that 2 teachers were banging. Years later, everyone finds out that not only were they having an affair outside their respective marriages, but that the male teacher was cheating on both women with a man. The female teacher moved away and ended her own life. The entire situation was unbelievably messy. Story 6. The wood tech teacher was married to the French teacher. They had a child. The PE teacher fucked the French teacher. The wood tech teacher went into the PE department and threatened to beat the shit out of the PE teacher with a cricket bat. I believe this was during a normal school day, but it was before my year started there. A second PE teacher got involved and stopped it, so everyone kept their jobs. Later on, the wood tech teacher married the geography teacher and they had 2 kids, whilst a third PE teacher cheated on her husband with the second PE teacher every Wednesday. An hour before lunch, I would see PE teachers 2 and 3 through the window of my science classroom. They would get in a car and leave together. Sometimes I would see them come back and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on, and later they became a couple that was known to students. Story 7. We had a running joke around my school for years. If someone asked, "Could you insert questionnaire?" most people would reply, "I'll do it for a bag of Doritos." This was a school-wide inside joke because a girl was caught sucking this guy's dick in the bathroom. Some authority figures had the bright idea of asking why the horny teen would allow this. He said, "She said she would do it for $3 in a bag of Doritos." No one ever saw the girl again, but the guy became a legend. Well, you could say she jacked up her prices since then. Story 8. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly, but always place the girls in front of the classroom, did the whole lingering stare thing, and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did. But he was married and had a baby, so no one really suspected him of anything other than being creepy. Fast forward about 7 years. The teacher ended up being a sex offender. He had an ongoing relationship with a girl that began when she was 13. Based on what I could see from the various news articles, she was either in my year or the year before me. The police came to arrest him in the middle of his class, cuffed him in front of his students, then had him walk throughout the campus in cuffs to get to their car. I don't feel bad for him at all, but I can't imagine how his wife and son must feel. Story 9. The resource officer was a child molester and then murdered his wife after he was fired. He fled, and they still haven't found him over 10 years later. He's on Marshall's top 15 most wanted list. His name was Dan Hyers and his mother thinks he's dead. The computer tech teacher got caught having sex with a student. He was put on suspension while the investigation was conducted. He killed himself by running his car into a tree. Story 10. One kid who was in my history class jacked off in a giant communal pump, both of ranch dressing the upperclassmen all used. Was heard bragging about it in class, but nobody believed him until he got back to a teacher and they tested the dressing and lo and behold, jizz was present. Lots of scarred teenagers and lots of amused ones. Story 11. Probably not the juiciest thing, but the one I remember because of how I found out. A few of our high school library's walls were weird, sort of a lowercase B shape. So there was this empty space behind the bookshelves up against the walls. Tunnels, basically. Word was, students were fucking in there. I worked in the library, had to move the shelves and clean the tunnels, found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind, the condoms weren't the worst thing, really. The leftover food debris in there was worse, stuff like chicken bones. Edit. A couple of years later, I was talking with an ex-schoolmate. Another guy from our graduating class comes in. "I hate that guy," my friend says. Dude, you're gay." "Well, there's gay and there's so fucking gay, other gay people think you're too fucking gay." Turns out that gent had been one of the entrepreneurial fellows selling services for a few dollars ago. I wasn't shocked, since I already had some idea, but I was surprised that the going rate had been so cheap. Story 12. Our math teacher in high school had a student teacher she was helping train to take over for her when she went on maternity leave. The student teacher was maybe 20, 21, and a fairly attractive young woman, so naturally all the guys in the class had a crush on her. One guy in particular was a super senior and 18 to 19. He flirted with her non-stop, and she would act super embarrassed and blush and, in a non-committal way, tell him to knock it off. I'm sure you see where this is going. Well, towards the end of the semester, he was bragging about going on a date with her and how they went to the movies, then went back to her place and they had sex. We all thought he was full of shit, but the rumor got around the school and, of course, the teachers and faculty found out. Then one day she was just gone, and we had substitute teachers for the rest of the semester. We all knew what happened. Looking back, it's kind of like a shame that she probably wrecked her future teaching career for him. Story 13. We had two girls in our class that played a game to seduce a teacher. They did the usual staying after class to get him alone, wore inappropriate clothes that showed too much skin, touched him a lot, sat in his lap, laughed obnoxiously at any joke he made, etc. Girl A told Girl B she was tired of playing the game after about a month, so she wanted to stop and they seemingly did. But Girl A was actually sleeping with a guy since like the second week. Girl A told Girl B about the situation, and not knowing what to do, Girl B told her mom. When the time came around for the teacher to be confronted, Girl A killed herself, so that the teacher wouldn't be charged. The mother felt so bad that she didn't tell the school what was going on the minute she found out, so she felt responsible for the girl's death. The teacher was removed directly after the full story came out. He ended up running off, so he was never formally charged. Well, that's some fucked up shit. Story 14. The physics teacher was sexting and sleeping with one of his students. Not sure if she was 18 or not at the time. Although honestly, no one was surprised. He was a little too friendly towards the girls and changed his pants in the back of the classroom once. He ended up leaving for personal reasons over Thanksgiving break, but of course, it got out. Sadly, his wife was in her third trimester, which probably didn't make it any easier for her to find out her husband was sleeping with a high school student. Story 15. A new kid comes to high school, has a funny accent because his parents were missionaries, traveling all over the world. It was actually kind of cool. Spoke at least 4 different languages: English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. He was super polite, and everyone liked him. Of course, he had haters, mainly the so-called bullies, a concept he never understood. Rumor began that he was well-versed in many forms of martial arts. He never denied or admitted to them. One of the bullies decided to find out. He was much bigger than the new kid. The new kid did everything in his power to not escalate the fight, even took a punch from said bully. Well, guess the rumor was true. Not only did the new kid beat his ass, the bully shit himself. Most awesome thing I ever saw in high school. Edit. Unfortunately, I was never really close to him, but I had heard from another friend of mine that he ended up moving after high school. Nobody seems to know anything else. I barely remember his first name. It was not an easy one, let alone his last name. So he will live on in memory as that one foreign kid that nobody messed with. Story 16. So at my school, the drama teacher worked closely with one history teacher who did all the tech stuff for plays, sound, lights, etc. They spent a lot of time together, and both of them were married. The tech kids, my friends and I, always joked about them having an affair, and it turned into a school-wide rumor. We never really thought much about it, and that was 8th grade. Our friends and I went on to high school and forgot about it for 3 years, until a few months ago when we saw the history teacher at a football game. We went to ask him how he was doing, and the fucking drama teacher comes over and grabs his hand. We awkwardly said, "Oh, that was true, huh?" He replied, "Yeah, we've been going out for 2 years." We ended the conversation after that. So the rumor wasn't true when it first started, but ended up being true. Story 17. I was an outcast at my high school and was shunned by the majority of the school. Because of this, my circle of friends included the outcasts from my school and the outcasts from several other schools in my city. Me and my friend Sarah from my school were good friends with a very gay guy from another school named Raphael. We were also friends with this very punk girl from the same school as Raphael named Stephanie. Stephanie was really hot and always dressed in a very outwardly sexual way. Fishnets, schoolgirl uniform, thigh-high boots, etc. The quote-unquote jocks at our school thought we, Sarah and I, were freaks and shunned us until they saw us hanging out with Stephanie. Then every one of them wanted to have her phone number, and we were popular. Stephanie made the rounds of pretty much the entire football and baseball teams at my high school and was known as a head queen. Everyone wanted to go on a date with her, and most did. Stephanie and Raphael are the same person. Story 18. That a girl had brought her mom's vibrator into school for whatever reason possessed her. Teachers found out, it was confiscated, and her poor mom had to come and collect it. Edit. Well, since this is actually being seen, unlike most of my Ask Reddit answers when I turned up too late, I've got a bonus story or two. First one. We had a maths teacher I would estimate to be in late 40s or early 50s. Rumors were going around he was fucking a sixth form student, but obviously were brushed off to begin with. He ended up losing his job, leaving his wife and 2 children, and moving in with her at her parents' house. It also became evident that it started before she was 18, which was dodgy as fuck. Last I knew, they were getting married and he works at PC World. Now I can't remember what my other one was. I'll edit it in if I remember. Probably looks like I'm making them up now, but whatever. Story 19. The music teacher in my high school was rumored to have been fired for sending dick pics to a female student. There had been subs taking his place for nearly a month. The principal said he was too ill to come to work, and eventually another rumor that he had cancer started spreading around. He had been bald longer than anyone could remember. If you asked any of the school staff what was going on, they would just say, "He's just sick right now. We don't know when he'll be returning." One day in my physics class, everyone in the class pestered the teacher for the whole period until he finally gave in. Some people were still trying to argue the cancer story. One student asked the physics teacher, "Did he send nudes to that girl?" And he finally said, "That thing that you think happened, it happened." The student said, "So he did?" And the teacher simply nodded his head yes. A month or so later, the music teacher showed up at school. Everyone was running up to him in the hallway asking what happened. He dodged every question, and the last thing I heard him say was, "I'm just here to get some things." He didn't teach his class that day, and I never saw him again. Story 20. Heard one dude was sucking another dude's dick in the bathroom between classes. Thought it was a load of bull since one of them had a girlfriend and everything. One day a friend showed me a video of them actually doing it in the stall. Blew my mind. Turns out the guy getting his dick sucked wasn't even secretly gay or anything. Just like getting his dick sucked by his classmate. But the guy sucking was definitely gay. Yeah, he was gay, dude. Story 21. Juiciest? Christ, I don't know. Here are some random ones though. Some dude kept jerking off in the bathroom stalls and BD. The problem is, he'd finished by coating the toilet dispenser with his handmade batter. A rule got put in place that specifically disallowed people from bringing food into the bathrooms. People kept making hot dog boats and clogging up the toilets with them. The principal and VP were banging in the office. The soccer coach was banging athletes. I'm fairly certain I've seen a couple of students discreetly banging in the cafeteria. One of my best friends fell in a rocking chair. The pointy bit that lets it rock back and forth, it went up his butt. He was in the hospital for a while, and I'll leave the probably best for last. Spatula girl. She was a bit of an attention whore, even going out of her way to fake fainting spells. One day she decided to masturbate with the handle of a spatula, record it, and send it out to every dude she has the number to. Cops got involved, and a couple of those dudes went to juvie for possession of child pornography. As far as I know, action was not taken against her. Later in the year, the school's rival had a glow stick girl, who, you guessed it, did the same thing, but with glow sticks. Last football game of the season, the rival school showed up with a bunch of spatulas, and my school showed up with a bunch of glow sticks. High school is weird. This is also not even everything that happened, just most of the sexual type stuff. Story 22. That there was a video of a girl in my year fingering herself for a pack of cigarettes. The rumor went around for about a week before everyone in my year had it on their phone. I want to say this was 9 to 10 years ago. The school ended up having assemblies about it and said that if anyone was caught with it on their phones, they'd press charges for child pornography. We were 14 or 15 at the time. I think a couple of kids actually did get charged for it, though I think it got sealed once they turned 18. The poor girl in the video ended up changing schools more than once, because the kids at the first school she changed to ended up getting hold of the video and it went around that school too. Story 23. Everyone thought the cheer coach was pregnant. She left soon and denied it. I don't know how long later it comes to light she was, but it gets weird. This is her story. She didn't know she was pregnant, had a stillborn baby in her house. This caused her to have a mental breakdown. She tore arms and legs off the baby, then put the body in a tire in her yard and burned it. Cops and firemen get called for a fire in town. Due to how badly the body was burned, they were unable to prove if the baby had taken any breaths or if it was just born dead as she claimed. Everyone thought she was pregnant, but sadly, we were all right. I think social services took her kids. She had kids before this one, and she moved out of town. Story 24. This will probably get buried, but it was a legendary rumor that I never really believed. When I was a junior, the principal's daughter was a freshman. The principal had 3 daughters, but she was the oldest and first to hit high school. It was a small town. There was only one high school, and the principal happened to be the most successful basketball coach in school history. And in this town, that was important. The guy could do no wrong. So the girl, by default, had a lot more attention than any other normal freshman girl. She was outgoing and nice, and we were involved in athletics together, so we knew each other. Other than me just knowing who she was like most of the rest of the school. The rumor was that this girl, the principal's daughter, made a sex tape with a popular boy in her grade when they were 13. Apparently, the parents found the VHS tape and a few copies, and both families decided to destroy the tapes and leave the cops out of it, as it was a small town and both families were prominent in the community. This was all rumored, and if you asked the boy about it, he never answered the question. He never said yes or no, just found some sort of a way to change the topic. In hindsight, it was actually amazing how good he was at it, given that he was 14 at the time. Fast forward to senior year. I had known of the story for more than a year, like everyone else, and I regularly talked to the principal's daughter as a friend. She didn't really seem like the type of person to do that, so I didn't really believe it. One day after lunch, sitting around talking, one of my friends starts playfully arguing with her about something, and the argument escalated, and then he says, "At least I didn't make a sex tape when I was 12. Her response, "Hey, I was 13. Story 25. The vice principal at my high school was addicted to crack. Turned out to be true, and he retired early. Now, I'm aware that this has the making of a hilarious story, but it's not. He was the first man in his family to go to college. Black men in the 1970s Texas didn't have many options outside of the army. He distinguished himself as an educator, and he helped a lot of underprivileged students get accepted into colleges all around the country. Sadly, his entire family was killed by a drunken driver. Like many people facing a horrible and tragic dilemma, he turned to drugs. Fast forward to 1999, and there's a major drug bust in my town. The dude that was running the dope house rattled on the VP and several other high-placed individuals that ran my town. I'll let you guys form your opinions on the man, but I will say this. He never mistreated a single student in his 25 years as a teacher, and now lives his life in solitary disgrace. Story 26. I have 2 stories. One teacher randomly picked students, read pretty girls, to see him after class to talk about how the lessons went, and if they had any feedback. He never forced himself on them, but made it very clear that they could earn some extra points for certain favors. Apparently, it was a pretty well-known fact around the school, but no one ever caught him red-handed, and no charges were ever brought up. Until the year after me, where one girl did press charges, and suddenly literally dozens of girls or women from the past 20 years spoke up. He was fired. And we had a teacher in his early 40s who went through a divorce. He was a cool guy, but took it quite heavily. This happened in my first year. During my 3rd year, there was a rumor that he was dating the very attractive new English teacher, 23 years old. Turned out he was. He got mad credits from all the students. Story 27. That one girl started a gonorrhea outbreak. It was only a super big deal because my high school had 500 students and everyone knew everyone. Huge rumors like that never happened because the school was so small. In all of the high school's history, from 1800s or whatever, there's been a girl who got pregnant. But everyone eventually traced it back to the source just by having the inside knowledge of who was fucking who. It did end up being her. She gave it to several guys, gave it to other people, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure she transferred soon after.